Niching down and the power of niching down as a content creator. If you were with me in the last episode, we talked with Jessica Serna where she did that basically from day one. And now we're going to bring it to a story of two creators, myself and Jeanine, who did not do that from day one. We never niched down. It took us years to niche down, even for me, and you'll hear about it in today's podcast episode. It's been a journey to narrow down what it is I'm talking about. And if you're new here, welcome. This is Everyday Badassery. I'm your host, Christine Lozada. This is a podcast. I'm doing a mini series within Everyday Badassery to help you be just 1% more badass as a travel creator. And in today's episode, we are talking about the top thing. If you're brand new and you're like, I want to travel and create content, this is a very good episode for you. Why? Niching down is something that is insanely powerful to help you narrow what you make, have clarity around what you're creating, build trust with your audience, and help your audience to really engage with all of your content and be of extreme value to the partners you'll work with, from PR firms, tourism boards, destination marketing organizations, brands, and so much more. I'm really excited for today's guest. We have Jeanine at The Wild Explorer, someone I love creating content with. I was with her in the early days and got to see her transform into the niche that she's focused in on, which is California travel content and the surrounding area. She's an adventure traveler. I not say more. Let's bring her in.
I'm Jeanine. I'm the Wild Explorer. I'm an adventure travel content creator. I am primarily on Instagram, sometimes on TikTok, blog, and a podcast, which has been on long hiatus, but that's another topic for another day. You can find me all over California and beyond. I do travel a bit of everywhere, but California is my home base, and I love exploring it and sharing it with you all.
And you explore it so well, and you have seen explosive growth as a result of niching down. And it hasn't always been the case that you just covered California. I love having been part of your journey and seeing you make these changes and go after California, both well and hard, and really hone an audience. And so bring us back. When did you first start creating versus when did you start shifting into, or what did you talk about before versus when did you shift into California?
So I would say the journey started around 2016. Loved travel. I wanted to travel everywhere and anywhere. And I wanted to figure out a way of, one, documenting it, and then and also just like, how do I make this into a career? How does this become sustainable? I looked up to bloggers and I thought like, oh, that is the coolest job in the world. I want to be a blogger. I want to be a travel blogger and just go everywhere and get paid to travel. Like, I had no idea what that entailed, or even how to run a successful blog. But I wanted to do it and I wanted to figure it out. So that all started. I started my blog, I think it was late 2016 or 17. And I was not consistent with it. I really didn't know what I was doing. SEO, what? Like, it was a real journey. But I was traveling everywhere and anywhere. I would just get a cheap flight and I would be gone for a couple months at a time, come back, bartend, rinse and repeat. And I was going everywhere. And I had an Instagram at the time. I was trying to grow that. It was very stale, just like not moving the needle very much, a few thousand at one point. And then the pandemic happened.
Actually, hold on. Question. So you started a fairly long time ago. We're doing this. Would you say you were consistent at that point about blogging, like putting up blog posts and putting out Instagram posts?
I was not very consistent with blogging. I think there was a time I was consistent way later, but at the first part of it, no. Like, I had no idea what I was doing. And
so wait, when the pandemic hit, were you feeling any success on either front in what you were doing before?
Yes and no. I felt like on Instagram, I was moving the needle a little bit. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I got this paid, blah, blah, blah. And like when I say
Mm-hmm.
paid, I was getting like, like a $50 or like free headphones or, but something was happening. I was like, okay, something's happening. It's not nothing anymore. What's going on here? I need to figure out how I actually make this shift and how does this become a legit like paid thing? How does it become a sustainable career? And I think that is also when I was like, all right, I'm going in on Sidewalker Daily. I was looking for some sort of, mentorship program, something where I could learn monetization and, figure out like, how do I apply this? Like, what are the tools? So went hard because I had the time to do so finally. And yeah, there was just like a lot of changes around the pandemic.
Yeah. That was the same time for me as well, where I went from before it was traveling while I was a remote employee at my corporate job and just starting to create YouTube videos as a result of people asking me the same questions over and over. And it was a more sustainable way for me to answer to friends and family, realizing that more people were starting to watch that and they wanted more. But it was hard for me to see success because I would, like every travel creator, I just want to travel the world. I just want to go everywhere and talk about this or that. And what I started realizing, especially as I went into the pandemic and was creating, is that I would tell people, you shouldn't watch my channel unless you are traveling to, and then like Tulum, Zanzibar, Hawaii, California, Florida. Like these are the places I was covering. And obviously that list grew kind of over time, but it was really hard because it was scattered. And then the people who would watch my Zanzibar content wanted more, but I didn't have more. I nuked it for everything it was worth, but I was starting to create what I was calling box sets. And this is the way I would advertise myself to the tourism boards and the destination marketing organization, DMOs. I would say I create box sets, which means instead of trying to niche down on a single place, I would at least create a set, anywhere from like 4 to 10 videos, sometimes 50 videos. We'll talk more about this in a minute, about a single destination, so that people would binge watch the whole thing, copy my travel, and then go to that destination using my itineraries, my same hotels, which I would get affiliate revenue on, and started seeing a lot of momentum on that front, et cetera. But that was when I started seeing things really start to move from being like, oh, wow, like I'm not just capturing the places I'm going to, there's something here. And so that kind of leads me to a lot of people are like, oh, I want to travel the world and cover all these places. But you started during the pandemic pivoting into being smarter about what you were creating and starting to consider not just talking about the world. Bring us through what that was like and how you made that decision.
So it was very accidental. I was forced to stay home and there was no air travel at the time, right? Like everything was so limited. But just to have some sanity, I would go on drives. I would go to the park. That was my going outside. And sometimes we would drive, from LA to like Santa Barbara. And even though things were closed at the time, and this was obviously very early on, it was just nice to have that drive. And, I grew up road tripping and I love California so much. I'm like, we have everything here. We have mountains, we have cool beaches, we have it all. So I don't have to travel the world. I could travel around here and I have a lot of content. So just started showcasing more and more of California. And, I had mixed it. I had used old content and that didn't really like perform as well. So I just rolled with it. I was like, okay, California is where it's at. Let's ride this wave. Let's see what happens. And it just, even after like things were lifted, California was just what I was becoming known for. My numbers were growing and people were really engaged. So I couldn't take that away. And I was enjoying it.
I love that. So there's 2 key things that you're saying here that I think are so important to pull out. One is that like people were into it, right? People were engaged because think about it. You're covering California. So a lot of people who come in who are looking for California content will keep digesting and wanting your content. They don't have to come to Jeanine for a little bit of California content and then jump over to Christine for a little bit more. They can just stay with you and see all the things that you have because it's all relevant to a specific topic. Because the second thing you said is I was becoming known for something. And in this world of social media, I mean, people will spend more time on their own social media than anyone else will. And they'll think that someone is spending as much time looking at your Instagram post as you did creating it, which is absolutely not the case. And one of the things, actually, I did a social media strategy call last night. One of the things I suggested is I dare you to go ask somebody, whether it's like a friend or maybe you meet an audience person or a follower or just some random person that you might be an acquaintance with, open up your Instagram account and ask them to look through your content and just look over their shoulder. Don't say anything. Just watch them look at your content. It will likely be one of the most painful things you've ever seen. People will blaze through things. People will click on things you did not expect. People will not read the insane caption you spent hours writing. And people will, and again, it goes back to this point of you were starting to become known for something. It's social media. There's a lot of squirrel brains out there. This is a shallow place of quick things because when people don't have an opportunity to connect with people from a human standpoint in person or virtually like this, then they're on social media quickly to try to fill that void. And so you have to keep it simple and you have to make it a place where people want to get a lot of your content. How was it? Because I'm sure you were looking at your analytics over time. I'm sure your audience was changing to be a more California or surrounding area focused audience. Is that true?
Yes, absolutely. It kind of like exploded very quickly to the point where like it scared me a little bit. I was like, okay, because with a lot of people seeing your content comes trolls, everything else.
Yeah. Other there.
But yeah, I was like, am I growing too fast? Is this like, I don't want to all of a sudden explode and I don't know, feel like I'm missing something, which, we all get in our heads and we're like, is this too much? Is this too fast? What is this? I remember like quickly hitting 10K, which, back in the day was like this big deal, right?
Yeah,
like,
it's a big deal.
See those posts with the balloons and all that. And that just like came and went. And I was like, oh, I'm at 20K. Oh, I'm at 30. And I mean, it's a number, but those are people. And it was exciting, a little scary, but yeah, it happened really quickly. And then, just the algorithm changes and more creators come in and things kind of just fluctuate. So it felt like, a little bit more of a settle. I'm like, okay, could grow a little bit slower now and, not feel like, oh, is everyone coming in just because of this one viral video? People are actually consuming it because, or hitting the follow button because they like your content. They like all the content you're producing, or most of it, not just one piece.
I think what you're talking about, though, is an interesting problem because the problem before was that you weren't growing at all, right? Like it wasn't moving the needle. That since 2016 or so, you've had these accounts and like traveling around and posting content, not consistently, and it just wasn't really growing. And then all of a sudden, your new problem, which is a great problem to have, is that now you're seeing a lot of growth. And this is as a result of niching down and creating a bingeable content. Like your content is bingeable if you're a California person or someone looking for California tips, which by the way, don't forget to check the show notes. Find Jeanine everywhere. And especially if you're traveling to California, there's a lot of inspirational content in there. But let's talk tactics around a couple things. Like what advice would you have even if you were to go back now, based on what you know now, and you could go back and tell your old self who was like growing faster than she was, I don't know how to deal with that. What are a couple pieces of advice that you would give to your old self?
To niche down earlier, whatever that looks like. It doesn't have to be a location, and it depends on, people listening might be travel, they might be beauty, they might be whatever. But I think it is important to have like something that you're known for. And when I say like I'm known for California, for someone else that could be like, oh, I'm known for like always having my dog in my content, or I don't know, my hairstyle, my whatever it is. You want that type of thing where like people are scrolling and they don't even have to see you yet and kind of like already know
They know it's you.
that it's you.
Yeah.
Because like I could scroll through you. I was like, oh my God, this is Christine.
But
I'll see you right away.
There are very specific things that I do consistently to make it very branded me. Like there's no doubt it's me. Whether it's like the sticker I use with the left shark that's waving in my Instagram stories, or the color branding that I use, or there's always champagne or drones or something like that. It's consistent. But I think what's interesting about your situation is that people craved more, but you were in that place already. You were in California. So as people craved more, wanted more, you were in the place where you could just get more. And part of what I've seen a lot of creators do, especially like yourself during the pandemic, is niche down on the place that they live. Because one thing to consider, and this is, if you're listening to this and you're like, oh, well, my backyard is not very interesting. Like, I used to think my backyard wasn't interesting. And I used to live in San Francisco, in the city proper. And it's just like, you're just used to it. But someone is traveling there. There is something interesting about where you live. So get out of that mindset. But the other thing is, how can you be creative about a place maybe that you have niched down on in the past that's starting to blow up? An example for me is I became known for Tulum content because I spoke very honestly about Tulum during the pandemic. And a lot of people were looking for more content after I'd gotten back. And so I tried really hard to edit out as many videos as I could using the content I had. But then I was like, how can I get creative? And because I just recently came back from Tulum again to build on that content again. I had to travel back to be able to continue to work on that niche. You have it in your backyard. I wish I didn't have to take a plane ride to a bus ride to a taxi ride to a fill in the blank. And so one of the things I did at that time to be creative about it was I started interviewing people. I started bringing in people who knew a lot about Tulum and just started answering the questions that my audience was asking. And that was my creative way to keep building on that content. But I think one thing that's interesting for you is when you are niching down on a place, you become known by more of the businesses, the marketing organizations, the tourism boards for California, for that area. I'm curious if you could share some stories around what it was like finding partnerships, given that you were able to niche down.
Yeah, it's really interesting because like working with DMOs, like if I go to a travel conference, a travel show, somewhere where there's multiple DMOs, I'm automatically looking at anyone in California,
Yeah.
And especially smaller cities or smaller regions, because they're the ones that probably need it the most. And it's like an way easier you just feel more comfortable. You're like, I know this destination. Mm-hmm. I know what I could provide. It's that automatic like confidence boost. So I felt like it was easier in that sense. And I was very aware of, my audience is very California. And I know like if there's like anything specific to LA, I'm like, I have, 15% of my audience is LA, and anything in like the Bay Area, I'm able to provide that. And I think it's, having those strong numbers that you could look at and you're like, okay, I know this content will do good here. I know I could work with XYZ. You just feel so much more confidence.
Yeah. It comes from the numbers. It comes from the numbers because as a result of niching down, you have a track record of what performs well with your audience, what style, what angles to shoot things in, how to tell a story about a place. Like you'll know what will or will not hit. And it's easier for you to make that decision versus like I was recently in a conversation with a destination and and again, like what do these destinations truly want? So if you're like, oh, how do I approach these destinations? How do I make them want me? It's not just about a pretty picture. It's about converting your audience to go do something with that destination, i.e. go travel there or go book that hotel or go book that same vacation. And so if you have a track record, because you've been talking about a place, you can better manage expectations on what kind of conversion you might be able to see. Because I'll share an honest story about how I've recently niched down. I have like 10 niches, by the way. So I started going hard on content around Virgin Voyages. And actually, I don't know if you know this, Jeanine, everyone just thinks I'm an employee of Virgin Voyages.
No way.
Which is not a bad thing.
Yeah.
It's
I
not
just
a bad
think it's
thing,
funny because I'm like, I see you as like an ambassador. Like you are. Yeah.
I'm an ambassador. And I mean, I actually think that is one of the most important. And when I say ambassador, it also means zero affiliation with Virgin Voyages. It's just like, oh, you can just call it a super fan. I'm a super fan of Virgin Voyages, which is the best place to be because I can speak honestly. I can speak my mind honestly. I can give the truth about my opinions on things. And then I can, because I'm a super fan, provide the seriously helpful tips for people. And what I learned is I could, as a one and done, which I did, worked together with Virgin Voyages to create content, realized immediately like, no, the value that I bring is helping people to discover and then book Virgin Voyages. So I should instead partner with somebody to help me book people on Virgin Voyages. And this might be news to you, Jeanine. So I actually partnered with a travel agent and he books my audience. And everyone's always like, well, why don't you do it? And I'm like, well, actually, I am a travel agent. I totally got, not catfish, bait and switched into becoming a travel agent. I was like, oh, I didn't mean to do that, but I'll do it for friends and family. But I basically don't have the bandwidth to be both creator and a traveler and a travel agent, booking an audience and serving that customer. And so he's partnered together with me. And as a result of dropping this content where someone comes in, binges it, and then books through us, we, out of 22,000 travel agents in our first 6 months of working together, made the top 100. Like that says something, right? Like that says something. And that's a result of niching down. I have over 50 YouTube videos about Virgin Voyages. People will watch this face talk for more than 2 hours and then try to get on the same sailings as me. And when then we all party together, make more epic content, but it just keeps snowballing. I'm getting ready to get back on board for 2 back-to-back sailings in 3 days. And I'll be on board for half of the month and just making more content. And like, I love it. And as you're hearing this story, you can tell like, when you travel back to a place that it's easier to make that content. I know all the angles that I need to shoot of the ship. I know the audience so well. I have a Facebook group. I'm able to niche down. And now with a Facebook group, I can listen to the questions that they are asking on a daily basis. And I'm never at a shortage of what kind of content should I create because they're literally asking me questions all day. And it's too easy. I basically just answer their questions. I go back to a place that I know like the back of my hand, and then I shoot content and I love the experience. And so like, same for you, right? You love California. It's not like, I hate living here and this is my only place I can create. Like when I see you in your content, like you are out there like drinking the wine and like hiking the mountains and being in the flower fields and all the things. And it's just like, you're doing the thing that you love. Actually, do you have any reactions to what I said or anything that you would add to it?
Important is actually like enjoying what you do because
it's so hard to make content about things you don't like.
It's such a disservice, right?
It's so bad. I don't do it anymore at all.
One is just about like repeating destinations too, like how you did with like Tulum, and you loved Tulum and you loved creating content around Tulum. A lot of travel creators, I don't know if I want to say a lot, but there are a fair amount that don't like repeating destinations or just rather like, I'm trying to travel to all the countries in the world. And why would I go back to Italy? Why would I go back to Vietnam? And it's like, why not? Like if that content did well, you loved it, you enjoyed it, and people want to see more of it. Maybe people want to maybe you want to host a group trip. There's so many opportunities, but just because you're going back to a destination, like, I don't know, I just ride the wave if you can.
Ride the wave. Hey, it's Christine. I want to interrupt really quick to talk to you about a really important concept that you may have heard before, but is super important and is a great reminder all the time about know, like, and trust. In other words, think about what we're talking about this conversation. We are hitting the same topic or the same destination over and over again. And people are starting to say, Christine, she talks about virgin voyages. Or, ooh, Jeanine, the wild explorer. Yes, I've seen her before. She talks about California. They start to know who you are because you're consistently showing up all the time talking about that thing. It leads them to, in theory, like you. If they keep consuming your content, okay, I'm starting to like this person. Christine's funny. She drinks a ton of champagne. She laughs at herself a lot and posts a lot of fail photos of her doing things all the time. It's hilarious. Jeanine, she always shows up in her stories saying hello each morning. It's such a lovely thing. She's been doing that for years, by the way. They start to like you. And that leads to, okay, over time, they've developed this relationship with you and now they trust you, right? Trust doesn't come from the first 10-second Instagram reel that you see out there. It just doesn't happen that way. You can't trust someone just from a single photo. It takes time, and it takes time to consistently be talking about something as a result of niching down to be able to know, like, and trust somebody. At that point, when you've built that relationship with your audience, they trust you to have put out solid advice about whatever it is you're talking about. For me, I talk very honestly about virgin voyages, for example. And when I am going on my next virgin voyage in Puerto Rico, I am going to be booking a hotel while I'm over there. And I'm also probably going to get a car rental so I can drive around Puerto Rico. I did this epic road trip there. Well, that's a complete aside. Drive around and fly my drone around there. And I might do a couple tours. I'd love to go kayaking out there. Or I'd love to go, I don't know, do some kind of something out there with a guide. Maybe get your guide. Maybe using booking.com. Maybe using rentalcars.com. And these are all partners with Travel Payouts. Today's podcast sponsor is Travel Payouts, someone that I personally partnered with. Why? Because when my audience knows me, likes me, and trusts me, and knows I'm speaking from the heart and giving sound advice about the places I travel to, and I'm recommending these things because they worked for me, and you have to make the choice as to whether it works for you, then they might want to, in the blog posts, in the links of the social posts, click on the Travel Payouts affiliate links. If you're like, what is Travel Payouts? They're an aggregator. They're a platform that works with all of these different partners and so many more, and makes it so easy as the creator to be able to look at all the different programs that are available, sign up for the ones that are relevant to me, and then serve up to my audience. Because I'm using those same platforms. I'm using booking.com all the time to book even my own hotels. And now I'm just giving them the advice that I used, and then I get a portion of that affiliate revenue. You can check them out, and they're giving you a bonus. There's a link in the show notes below. You can check that out, see if it's the right fit for you, but it's a very lucrative way for travel creators to be able to monetize the content and the value of the advice that they're giving to their audience. Know, like, and trust. You got to keep showing up consistently and talking about the same topic. All right, let's get back to it. Here's a super simple example to wrap your head around this. Pretend you have one post. I'm sure, Jeanine, you can give a perfect example of this. You post something about California or virgin voyages. It performs well. What should your next post be? Something super similar that adds to that story, because someone wants a little bit more than that. If they love that, they'll love what's next. I remember I went viral on Zanzibar. And what did I post after that? Not Zanzibar. I didn't do it. I was so dumb. I was like, why did I do that? Now I have something totally random, irrelevant, not even at all niche down to a destination as the next post after that got the most amount of views again. And then people dropped off after that because it's like, oh, well, that was random. Because
the first time you go to viral is so hard because you don't know what to do after that.
You don't know what to do.
You bring up
Actually, hold on. Let's just do quick tips really quick. For someone who goes viral for the first time, what are a couple suggestions that you have?
Look at the comments. What are people asking? Create content around that first. But yeah, ride that wave, make it like what did you call it? Like a box set, like start spinning. What else can you talk about with Zanzibar? If you run out of Zanzibar, what are places that look like Zanzibar? What are other places? Write it, because you have a lot of eyes on that piece of content. People want to see more of it. So figure that out. Don't jump to a whole other destination and
don't change the topic. Keep it there. Keep it there. And this is where your creator part of you, be creative to figure out how you can keep talking about that thing. And even if, and it goes back to this, what I said earlier, which is only you will spend the most amount of time staring at that content piece you made. You're probably going to be like, no, I already talked about this. No, this looks too similar to this. Great. Post it. Like, you can always delete it later, but more likely than not, it will perform well. My suggestion for going viral for the first time is, and this is actually tied very closely to what I say to every new creator, which is, especially if you're first starting or you first went viral, if 5.6 million people were following you today or tomorrow, what do you want them to do? What do you want them to do? And too often the answer is, well, just follow me. And what? If you had, 100 million people following you and you made $0 off of that, how would you feel inside? Probably pretty disgusted, right? You were adding value to people's life. They are following you for some reason. What is the value add that you are providing that you could potentially monetize off of? And so it might be, what did I do? I hit Zanzibar hotel content. These are the hotels. Book the same hotel as me so that I can make affiliate revenue. This tour guide, you got to book that same person. This is what that tour is like. I will make an affiliate revenue off of that. And so copy my travel, because I will get a kickback of that added value to you, because now you know how to travel just like I did. But I also get a value back beyond just the ad revenue, because depending on just Meta or Instagram or Facebook to pay you out ad revenue, it's really pennies on the view. It's really pennies on the view.
People think that followers equal dollars, and no, it's like, figure out your monetization strategy. Like, if you want to go for brand deals, but also keep in mind, like, don't keep all of your eggs in one basket.
Yeah, it's true. And it's a constant balance of pitching and posting and all of the things. Oh, I love this.
It never ends.
It never ends. The power of niching down and what it can do for you. Jeanine, tell us, where can people find you?
They can find me on Instagram at La Wild Explorer, and across social media. I'm on TikTok, Pinterest, sometimes YouTube. And yeah, my blog, lawildexplorer.com.
As I reflect on today's podcast episode, I'm still trying to niche down. It's hard. I do a lot of different things, and you might be feeling that too. Ooh, like, am I going to be stuck with just one topic? No, but you do have to pick your battles and learn from us. Success leaves clues. The more scattered we were in trying to create the content and trying to figure out what the messages are. When you have consistency, and you know a place, and you know how to create content about it, and you know what works for your audience, and you know what will work well with your audience, and you know how to sell yourself and pitch yourself to brands and tourism boards and marketing organizations, because you have this track record, it just makes everything so much easier. And if you still refuse to niche down, I think you should just try it for a little bit. See what happens. I'm realizing I need to niche down even more. We all do. If you found value in today's podcast episode, please share it with somebody. Leave a positive review. Connect with Jeanine. All of her info is in the show notes below. She's such a badass. Connect with me. I'm at Christine Lozada everywhere. In the meantime, go forth. We'll see you in the next adventure. Ciao.